As we're coming back now into this second part, I'm going to warn you there's really only two slides here, but the second one's a bit of a doozy, so brace yourself. Now, your book talks about in persuading, focusing on your audience. This is a really important idea. And what's behind it, though, is really relate to your audience. Think about how important it is whether or not people are relatable. They seem like somebody who understands who we are and where we're coming from. That's hugely important. We actually have a term for this in the study of rhetoric. We call it identification. And it's Kenneth Burke writes about that, and he says that people are persuaded when they feel another person is like them in terms of their values, of how they talk, of their experiences, that they identify with them. And so if I were speaking to you about why it is we need to increase tuition because we need to increase the salaries of faculty, you may not be all about that because you're suddenly feeling the great distance in between us. Wait, I'll be paying more money, so he has more money. Can I pass on that? And don't worry, the state of Tennessee has no intention of ever bringing my income up. Anyway, that's fine. So all that aside, relate to your audience. And in your speech, though, in your persuasive speech, that needs to be specific to the topic, right? So relate to them in terms of experience, an experience that you've had, they may have had as well. And the experience might not even be having done something, but being nervous about something, being unsure, or in a future experience of having to face the job market after finishing a college degree. Right? Those are experiences that you all are sharing, so you may want to draw on that. Again, concerns, right? Worries that are had, the things that you value. So most of you are probably here in East Tennessee or right here in this area of South Central Appalachia. So what sorts of concerns do many of you have? And think about the concerns that you have that, again, are relative to your topic, right? So, so what are those going to be? Right? And then last, the resources. What are the sorts of resources that many of you have or that you feel you don't have? What is it you think you and your audience have in common in terms of resources that you have or that you don't have? Right? So flaunting what you have that your audience doesn't have is not going to help you. Now, if you share about that you had a problem, a lack of a resource that many people struggle with, and you found a way to navigate that and get through it, that might be something people would appreciate because this experience and these resources you're talking about, that you had been there with them and how you found your way out from it. But relating to people, letting them know how you're with them in this, right? I think, wait, I'll move on from there. Okay. So last I want to talk about Monroe's motivated sequence. I'm not saying that if you're giving a persuasive speech in general or in this class, that you have to use Monroe's motivated sequence. What I am saying is that you really probably should be using Monroe's motivated sequence. And there are some other options when you look back to chapter 11, and it talks about different organizational patterns. There's a couple of those that argument from cause, if you're making a fact appeal, that could be useful. But if you want to get a persuasive speech where you want people to do something, right? If it's a persuasive speech where you want people to start doing something, listen up. You want to use Monroe's motivated sequence. And I will tell you, I once had to write a letter to appeal for the board I was on. Actually, I'm now on again, actually, but at that time, to get somebody to assume a private loan we had and to lower our rate and all that. And when I wrote the letter, I used it writing Monroe's motivated sequence and was successful in doing so, I have to say. But Monroe's motivated sequence, hugely important. So first, when you're speaking, you want to make sure, or in your writing, really, you get people's attention. We're going to talk about that in speech organization in general, but yeah, get people's attention. Hey! But think about when you're watching commercials, how often that first shot, the first sounds are meant to capture our attention, to bring us in, and it should be something that's relative to the topic generally. You then want to explain a need, right? So what is wrong? Show us how something that we care about, this is talking about those anchors in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Show us where something is wrong in society, something is wrong in our lives. But this is where you create that imbalance I was talking about. You appeal to that anchor and you create that imbalance. You show people that something is wrong, right? Because if something is wrong, you're going to then hopefully move them, right? At that point, you will move them then to an action. So part of this is going to require showing people how it's something to them, right? Well, what's it to me? Right? And so if you think about something like breast cancer, men do develop breast cancer, but the rates of men's breast cancer are so much less than men. You figure about 1 in 100 cases of breast cancer are of men. That works out to somewhere around about 1 in 1,000 men, right? So it's not, so men may not feel this topic really affects them very much. But if you talk about the need for us to put more money into breast cancer detection, for instance, if you remind men about the simple fact, or I say men, those who don't have breasts, right? I'm thinking of men here. Perhaps it's a little too, cisgender there. You'll excuse me, but think about, right, that people you love who have breasts, right? It's an odd word. I don't know if I go around using that phrase a whole lot, but you know what I mean, right? Think about the women in your life who are impacted by this, right? That would be a need. So again, you want to get people's attention, and you want to show them how there is something that's of concern to them and that actually affects them. Right? Okay, next step is about the satisfaction. And please pay careful attention to this third step, which is satisfaction, and note how it's different from the fifth step, which is called action, and I'll get to it in just a few minutes, or just a minute or two here. Right? So satisfaction is letting people know that whatever problem you're confronting them with is one that can be fixed. Right? Whether it's a problem about their food safety, if it's a problem about their self-esteem, a problem regarding their ability to get a job on the job market, right? Because the market's so rough right now, which I understand it is, and I'm sorry about that. Letting people know that this can be fixed. And here you give people, it's just sort of the broad strokes. You're not doing any details yet. You're giving people the broad strokes. So you tell them, for instance, the job market's tough out there, and one of the key things you can do to improve your odds is getting an internship, right? And you talk with them about what internships are, right? And how internships can help. So satisfaction shows us there's a problem that can be fixed. And that example I alluded to in the previous lecture, right? That there are don't you love your family? Attention, right? There are break-ins all the time. And they happen in your city, which is need, right? Your city happens to you. Satisfaction is having an alarm greatly reduces even the likelihood of a break-in, right? That would be a satisfaction. But notice all I did is I said, that's what you do. I don't now tell you how you go and do it. I'm holding off on that. So that's need and satisfaction. Then comes visualization. You cannot skip this step, and I want you to take a moment to really try to process and get this. So visualization is when you tell us about how our lives will look having engaged in satisfaction. So if I get an alarm system, say with an alarm system, you can sleep easy at night. When you hear reports of increased crime in the area, you can rest assured knowing it will not intrude on you and your family. Right? That's a visualization. Right? You're helping me to see how good will my life be by engaging in the action you're going to give me, right? Or you can tell me about how bad it could be, right? So the visualization, you say, we talked about the importance and the value of, of a home alarm system. And just imagine lying in bed at night in that loud noise, and you want to tell yourself it's nothing, but what if it's not? By the way, that's a terrible scare tactic, but you see where that's a negative visualization, letting people know what they could lose. So positive visualization about having the internship, and when people see that on your resume, just think about how they're going to respond to that knowing that you already have in-field experience. Or negative. Imagine being on the job market and all you have to show is your college degree and that you don't have any quote-unquote real-world experience, right? That would be a visualization. So you can use one or the other or both to compare and contrast. And the last step is action. So satisfaction is get the alarm system, get an internship. Action is here's what you're going to go and do. So here are simple economical ways to get an alarm system, and here's who you can contact. If you want to get an internship, these are the resources on campus. Contact them to start setting up your internship, right? So it's sort of this like, where do I do this? Tell me more. That's what the action step is. And you want to make sure that in this step, right, that you're being very specific, right? There were not details before. This is the phase where you have details and you're very doable. Things that are actually something a person can do and they can accomplish. And please, 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 make your action steps something more than, donate, time, donate money, or vote. Those are all good things. But let's try to find things that are, especially the voting one. Voting is important. It's hugely important. Please, you should be voting. But and voting wisely, really taking the time. But try to be a bit more creative and action-oriented than that.